Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. And today we're going to be making bread, but we're going to be making pigs in a blanket. Now, if you know of somebody that likes hot dogs, I would challenge you to put him up against my husband, because he is the hot dog eatingest dude you've ever met in your life. You could offer him anything in the world to eat and say, you want this or a hot dog? And he'll pick a hot dog every time. So pigs in the blanket are the only thing that's better than a regular hot dog to him. These are good quality hot dogs. I'll show you what I use later on when we get into that part of it. But try to find something, if you're caring about eating better, try to find something with no nitrates and nitrites in it, something that is uncured, preferably something with no sugar in it, but if there's sugar in it, there's probably just a minimal amount. So try to find something of better quality instead of just whatever you've always bought because you hadn't read the label and didn't think anything about it. The nitrites are carcinogenic, also known as cancer-causing. So try to steer clear of things that are cured or have the nitrates and nitrites in it. So let's get started on our bread part. Now you'll probably find that these are similar to other bread products that I make, like the sandwich buns we've done a video in the past on, but we changed it up a little bit. We don't need the richness of the whole milk in this recipe, so I am just using plain water. Now I've heated this up just to like a warm bath water temperature, as we called it earlier, and I have a cup of water in there. Lid off of this. I'm going to put just a little bit of honey in it. I'd say maybe a tablespoon of honey. Give that a stir and it'll dissolve. This is what our yeast is going to feed on. I'm also going to put 4 tablespoons of butter in there, and the warmth of the water is going to soften that a lot, so once we turn the mixer on, it'll get incorporated in there real well. Let's get a measuring spoon. We're going to go with about 1.5 teaspoons of yeast. This is just instant yeast. This is not what the label says. I just keep it in this jar in the refrigerator to keep it fresh. So 1.5 teaspoons of yeast, you're going to sprinkle it over the top of your warm water and wait just a bit for it to activate. In the meantime, I'll try to get the rest of that honey off my spatula. You can use any kind of, really you can change this up and use any kind of meat. You don't have to use hot dogs. If you say, I'd rather have ham and cheese, then by all means get your favorite ham and cheese and just replace the hot dogs with your ham and cheese. But these buns are so good. People that don't like hot dogs, I have a family member who claims they do not like hot dogs. Every time we went to a picnic when they were younger, they did not want to eat there because they had hot dogs, and I kept thinking, what kid doesn't like hot dogs? Even if they were good hot dogs, they didn't want them. But for their birthday, about 1.5 years ago, when I asked them what they wanted for their birthday meal, I'd fix anything they wanted. They wanted a peach cobbler and they wanted hot dogs, and I thought they had lost their mind, because their whole lives they said, I don't like hot dogs, but they said, I want those pigs in the blanket that you make. So there really is something unique about these, because the bread is cooked with the hot dog in it. The flavor from the hot dog gets infused into that bread, and it really is a very, very good comfort food. So our yeast is starting to activate. It's a little foamy in the water, so this is when we're going to add our flour. I brought my flour bucket over here, and we're going to add about 3 cups of flour to this. This is unbleached organic flour. Worst case scenario, just use conventional unbleached flour. Don't ever use bleached flour if you're trying to do better, because flour is bleached with a carcinogenic bleaching agent. It's for longer shelf life. It has nothing to do with the color. So we have 3 cups of unbleached flour in here. Let's get our salt, and that's the last ingredient that we'll add. We're going to add about a teaspoon and a half. Not only does the salt give it flavor, but it also keeps it from rising so fast that it kind of goes out of control, so it just tempers that rising a little bit. So there's a science behind using the salt, other than the fact that if you left it out, you would definitely see a taste difference. Just that teaspoon and a half of salt makes a lot of difference. We'll plug our mixer in. We're going to mix this for about 5 minutes, then we'll come back. We're going to turn it off and let it rest. So I'm going to turn the cameras off while we're running this, but I'm just going to run it on about a medium-low speed for 5 minutes. All right, we've done our 5-minute rest on our dough. Well, no, we've done our 5-minute mix. That wasn't a rest, that was a mix. The mixer was running the entire time. Our dough is nice and soft, but you can definitely tell it needs to be mixed more. Just be patient. Put this back in the mixer, and we're gonna let it rest now. We're only gonna let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and turn our mixer back on. So this is our rest period. We've mixed it for 5 minutes. We're gonna let it relax for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll be back. We are back after our dough resting for about probably 8 to 10 minutes. It's been resting. So we're gonna turn our mixer back on. We're gonna mix it for 40 minutes now. Again, I know that sounds like a long time, but you either do it in the bowl with the mixer or you do it by hand. And I'm telling you what, no wonder our grandparents were so burly, because if they made bread, they were at this a long time. We were editing a video last night, and my husband said something about, what if you didn't have the mixer? And I said, you just have to do it by hand. And he goes, like with a spoon? And I said, you can't do that with a spoon. You start out with a spoon, but you have to start kneading it by hand. That's why it takes so long, and it's so strenuous, and your arms hurt after you've done it, because I taught a class on making bread one time, and I said, you can bring a mixer if you want. Well, I think one person brought a mixer, but the rest of us were over there kneading this in the bowl or on the countertop by hand, and they were like, I'm worn out. And I was like, yeah. Now you know why they made 3 and 4 loaves at a time, because this was not worth making one every single day. So we're going to turn our mixer on for 40 minutes. We'll be back. I'll turn the video back on when this is done. All right, we've had our mixer going for 40 minutes, and our dough is super soft. It feels like baby skin. I can promise you that. Yep, it does. Unplug your mixer, take your dough hook off. This can be washed now. You're going to take a shower cap. We always talk about these being from our hotel vanity packs, or you can buy them at just a regular store for 10 or 12 in a pack. They're very inexpensive, but keep this, put it over your bowl. That's going to keep the moisture in your dough so it doesn't dry out, especially on the outside. If you have a house that is very cool inside, then you will want to take your bowl, put it either in the closet where your water heater is, or put it inside your oven. Move your racks down to where you'll have enough for your bowl. Move your racks down to the bottom, and just turn the light on your oven. You don't necessarily have to turn the temperature on. You don't want to heat your oven up. You just want it to be a warm environment. Moisture is key in this as well. If you have a very cold house and you put it in your oven, you can put a dish of warm water in the back corner of your oven. That will help with the humidity in there. You don't have to necessarily cover up the bowl at that point though. But a lot of times you'll see other recipes online and people will tell you about it, and they'll say, now grease your bowl and it's going to rise in there. There is no need to in this. This has enough butter. This is not going to stick to your bowl any more than what it has already. So we're going to let this rest for an hour. This is considered your first rise. We're going to let it rise again once we shape our pigs in the blanket, but this is considered the first rise. This will take an hour, so I'm going to turn the cameras off and we'll be back in an hour. We'll see what it looks like then. We are back from our 1 hour first rising of our dough. So at this point, we're going to take the cover off. That came out of there pretty clean, I'd say. 2 little specks of dough in there. Get yourself a rolling pin. You're going to roll this out into a circle. This package has 6 hot dogs in it. So you'll want to make sure your hot dogs are a little bit on the dry side. Some of them come out of the package and they've just got all this juice in it, so either take them out of the package and lie them on a paper towel or something like that. You don't want them too wet. You'll make the inside of it just a little more mushy than you want, probably. It doesn't really matter how big this circle is. Even if you have 8 hot dogs in your package, you're only going to use this one thing of dough. Now, if you like less bread than hot dog, you might want to get 2 packages of hot dogs. But mine's going to have quite a bit of bread on it just because there's only 6 hot dogs in the package. If your dough does not roll out into a perfect circle, don't sweat it. Amoeba-shaped dough tastes just as good as perfect circles. All right, rolling pin back in the drawer. And since I have 6 hot dogs, I'm going to cut this in 6 sections. If you have 8 dogs or 12 dogs, however many hot dogs you have, cut that according to how many you have. So I'm going to, this is about the center of my dough. I'm going to run my knife straight through here, and then each of these will only be divided into 3 sections. So that's about as close to 6 equal sections as I can get. I'm going to show you these hot dogs. These are Applegate Organics. These cannot be found everywhere. I'm not oblivious to the fact that these are a little hard to find, but if you can find them, it's very much worth it. They're absolutely delicious, but the fact that they have no sugar in them, it is organic grass-fed beef is the first ingredient. It has spices, paprika, celery powder is the basic preservative in it, if you will, because there's no nitrates or nitrites in it. It's not cured. So if you can find these, it's worth it. Locally, we have a place called Good Measure Market. That's a delight to shop in. We have a place called Natural Food Store, and it is an absolute delight to shop in. Everybody that works there, the people that own it, are good friends of ours, and it's just, it's kind of a toss-up, just whichever one you get to first. They're both lovely places to go. I feel like a kindergartner playing a game. I'm matching the hot dogs up to the number of sections in our dough. So you're going to take these. Some of mine actually still have little pieces of ice on them, but that's okay. So you have your baking dish or your baking pan right there. And like, again, this dough does not stick to the countertop because it has enough butter in it. You're just going to roll that toward the center. How fun is that? Place these in your pan with the point right here on this, on the underside of it. That way it won't start coming unrolled once you start baking them, or they start rising actually. first of all. You'll need a larger baking pan, of course, the more hot dogs you have, but for 6, this will fit perfectly fine. Now, you can also use, I saw a brand, in fact, I picked up a couple of packages of them at Kroger the other day. It was called Teton, little cocktail weenies. They're about that long, and I made these on Christmas Day. We went to a friend's house for a brunch, and she made a big breakfast casserole, and she asked me to make those because she knows I make the bread to go on the outside of them, and put those in this dough and fixed them. And of course there were like maybe 24, and I just used one recipe of this dough, and it worked great. They were very, very good, and they were with grass-fed beef. That was a really good product. Okay, so for right now, we have our hot dogs wrapped up in the dough on the baking sheet. I'm gonna put these in my lower oven with a tea towel over them. Just for the sake of putting it over there. Like that. We're gonna put them in the lower oven. I'm gonna turn the light on to give it some warmth. This is considered our second rise. So remember, we let them rise while ago in the bowl, and then put this all together. This is our second rise before we bake them. So this is gonna last about 45 minutes to an hour. It just depends on how warm your room is, but keep an eye on it after 45 minutes. If it looks like it's kind of doubled in size, or it looks like it's puffy enough to bake it, then go right ahead and bake it. You're not gonna mess these up. So we're gonna put these in the oven. Turn the light on just to keep it warm. Set our timer for 45 minutes, and I'll see you back here then. All right, our oven is preheating right now. The timer will go off in just a minute. We're gonna get our pan from the lower oven. That's just a good little warm environment down there. What I'm gonna do, I have an egg wash left over from making, I think, sandwich buns the other day. This is just a mixture of an egg and about a tablespoon of buttermilk. And I had some left, and I thought, you know what, usually I don't put it on these, and it's fine if you don't put anything on these. You can brush them with milk, you can brush them with egg, or you can brush them with nothing. It really doesn't matter. This isn't going to affect the taste as much as it is just the look of them. They'll turn out really shiny. Anytime you have an egg wash on something, it turns out glossy and pretty. So we're just going to brush over these with our egg wash. They don't look at this point like they've risen just an immense amount, but once they start baking, they really puff up a lot. Seems like when I was a kid, they used to serve pig in the blankets in the school cafeteria, but I can't really remember for sure. Seems like we did have a hot dog, and it was baked inside some bread, so I'm pretty sure that's what it was, but I had no idea I'd ever be baking them as an adult. I remember they were good, though. Hey, just in time. Again, I have my little piece of parchment on here that I just keep on this baking sheet, and as long as it doesn't get something on there that's kind of gross and would ruin or get stinky or anything, I just keep using it in the oven. All right, we're gonna pop these in the oven now. Setting our timer for 20 minutes. I'll check them at 20 minutes, and if they look like they're getting done, then I'll turn the cameras back on and I'll let you see them coming out of the oven. But for right now, we'll just see how long it takes. We'll be right back. I just have to show these to you before they even get done. Ooh, look how puffy. I wish you could smell those. They smell so good. All right, I'm gonna close the door. Okay, our buzzer just sounded on our oven, so we're gonna get these out. Okay, here's our pigs in the blanket. Let's see if I can get a good shot on that. All right, these can be made ahead of time. This is the nice thing about these two. All you parents out there for saying, I can't do this at the last minute right before my kids walk in. I don't ever know what's gonna happen. Okay, that's fine. Make these in the morning while your kids are at school, if they're that age. When they cool off, put them in the fridge, and then reheat these right before you're ready to serve them. I promise I do this nearly every time I serve these. I'll do this today. Right now, it's about 1:30. We won't eat dinner until 6 o'clock tonight. So as soon as these cool off a bit, I'll put them in something, stick them in the fridge, and then I'll reheat them right before I serve them. They're actually a little bit better that way. I can't explain why unless it's just all that yummy flavor from the hot dog going into the bread, but that's how it works. Serve these with whatever condiments you want. I'm gonna try to roast some potatoes and sprinkle some crumbled blue cheese over it. So I'm looking forward to this tonight. Probably as much, well, maybe not as much as my husband, because he's a hot dog lover and he doesn't know we're having these tonight. So I hope you give these a try. Let me know how they turn out. I would love to hear from whoever's making anything, or if somebody's just watching the video and going, hey, I never thought about that. I think I'm gonna make that tonight. So I would love to know that this is helping you in some way. That's what my efforts are for, is to help you enjoy doing this as much as I do. So if you're frazzled in the afternoons, like I always was when my child was getting out of school and I didn't want to do things at the last minute, by all means, use your morning when you're doing everything else. Let your mixer run while you're doing laundry, running errands. I walked the dogs a while ago when the bread was rising. So anyway, it can be done. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.